If you're wondering whether it's time to get your child into tutoring, I want to give you a real answer. Not just wait and see, or let's check in again at the next report card. Waiting doesn't mean things get better. It means they get more frustrated, more avoidant, and much harder to help. My name's Rebecca, and I'm a literacy specialist with over 15 years of experience, and I run a specialized tutoring company called Novel Tutoring. At Novel, we support thousands of children each year with reading, including kids with dyslexia, suspected dyslexia, ADHD, and other language-based challenges. The question I hear from parents, more than almost any other, is at what point should we actually start tutoring? And my honest answer, usually sooner than you think. What I want to give you by the end of this video is a clear way to think about this. You can stop second guessing yourself and actually make the decision. The biggest mistake I see families make is waiting until a child has fallen far enough behind to qualify for concern. When a child struggles for months and nothing changes, something predictable starts to happen. They begin avoiding reading and guessing instead of decoding. At home, homework turns into a predictable fight, and slowly they shift from thinking, reading is hard, to thinking, I'm bad at this. That shift is the part most parents don't anticipate. Because once a child starts seeing their reading struggles as a reflection of who they are, you're no longer just building a reading skill. You're trying to repair an identity. Tutoring can absolutely help with that, but it becomes a far more complex challenge than it would have been with earlier support. So instead of waiting until it's bad enough, what should you actually be watching for? Here's the rule I give families. If your child has been struggling for a few months despite normal school support, it's reasonable to explore tutoring right now, not next year, not after another report card. You don't need a formal diagnosis, terrible grades, or a teacher saying they're really behind. So instead of asking whether it's gotten bad enough, ask a smarter question. Is my child learning to read the way we'd expect, or is this looking persistently harder than it should? The signs look different depending on how old your child is, so let's make this practical. For early readers in JK to grade 1, watch for a child who struggles to connect letters to sounds, has trouble hearing individual sounds in words, or can't seem to blend sounds together when reading. These signs can feel subtle at this age, but that's exactly why they're worth catching early. In grades 1 to 3, the picture often gets clearer. Reading tends to be slow and labored, spelling falls noticeably behind classmates, and the child relies on guessing rather than actually sounding words out. A child who regularly shuts down or cries over homework has usually already started to associate reading with failure. Most parents treat the tears as a frustration problem, but at this age, it usually means reading has already started to feel painful, and that's harder to fix than reading itself. Let me know in the comments, at what age did you start noticing something was off with your child? I read every comment. So how do you know if your school is doing enough, or if outside tutoring makes sense too? School support can absolutely help, but it's only enough if it's consistent, intensive, evidence-based, and matched to your child's specific gaps. A child can be receiving extra help at school and still not be making meaningful progress, particularly when that support is too broad, it's delivered in a group setting, or not grounded in structured literacy principles. The gap tends to show up most clearly when a child has already been receiving school support for a while and still isn't catching up. That's usually a sign that what's on offer isn't matched to what they actually need. A classroom teacher supporting 25 kids can't deliver the same thing as a structured one-to-one literacy session. For some children, that difference is what actually gets them unstuck. Understanding your child's situation is one thing, knowing when to act is another. There's one question I find cuts through all of it. Here's what I ask every parent who's on the fence about this. If nothing changes over the next 6 months, do you genuinely believe your child will catch up on their own? Because if the answer is probably not, it's time to look into tutoring. This is not because something has gone terribly wrong, not because you're overreacting, because you're trying to prevent a manageable problem from becoming a much harder one. That's proactive. And for a lot of kids, that decision made early enough changes everything. Here's the bottom line. Parents who act early are not the ones who panic. They're the ones who pay attention. You do not need a diagnosis, a failed grade, or anyone else's permission to get your child into tutoring. If your gut is telling you something is harder than it should be, then listen to it. And if you're trying to figure out whether your child's reading struggles are within normal range or actually a red flag, then watch the video in the end screen. I break down the specific signs parents actually need to watch for. I'll see you there.